welcome to the Pursue Your Potential podcast, season 2, episode 1. It has been a really long and hard journey for me to get to this place where I could feel comfortable, confident, and able to do my podcast on video. And I'm going to be explaining that today. I'm going to talk all about my insecurities and struggles that I've faced while trying to make this a reality. And I think that a lot of people will be able to relate to many of the things that I talk about. And I feel like, especially if you create content, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know that we struggle on different levels. Apparently, I've been struggling massively, and I do know other people that struggle with this as well. So I want to talk about it, and hopefully, you can find some peace in some of the things I'm going to talk about. That if you're dealing with these things, I get it. I'm going through it. I've been going through it. And I feel that I'm on the other side of this, even though I don't think that I'll ever be able to fully say that I'm over certain things or that this won't ever be hard to do. But I feel like I'm in a really good place to be able to do this and do my podcast video formatted. And so, what I'm trying to get out with that is, whenever I've got an idea to do something that I want to do, a goal that I have, I've always been super fast to act on that, no matter how messy it is. And this is the one project that I have really struggled with ever since I started my podcast. I will say that when I started it, I did the first few episodes holding my phone, recording it with the voice recorder in my car. And that was really big for me. I was like, I want to do a podcast. I want to just talk and share my message. Went out to my car and I did it. And it was so challenging because I would be sitting in my car and there were always so many noises. And I don't know if you podcast or if you've done anything similar to that, but when you start to record, if certain things come up, sometimes it's easy to block it out. Other times it just ruins the whole vibe, it ruins the whole energy. Whatever train of thought you were on, the focus that you had could be gone. And I would have that happen a lot. And so I would re record and delete and be like, hey, I'm not putting it out. And you just try and try again and hopefully get a really good episode that you could do. And yeah, you can edit it. It's hard to continue going when the vibe's been it's been messed with. And so I started recording my podcast at my house and at my home. I have my family, I have my dogs, they often bark. And sometimes there'd be people snow blowing or mowing their lawns, and just things would come up, right? So it was really hard for me to be consistent with it. I don't have a soundproof podcast studio. That sounds like a good idea. And I think that could help a lot. That's just not what I've had up until whatever point I decided to do that, if I ever do. So it was hard for me to be very consistent with that. I got 123 episodes out so far. And I just decided I want to commit to a 10-part project, at least 10-part, where I bring my podcast to video format. And that is what we're working on now. And I got this idea. The idea came up many, many times throughout the time that I've had the podcast. I decided I wanted to do it around this time last year. So it is 2 days before Thanksgiving. And last year, the day after Thanksgiving, I started a prep for my fifth bodybuilding show. And this is kind of what started things in motion to where it was very, very difficult for me. There were a few things in front of that I want to discuss real quick, because if you do any kind of content creation or if you're watching content, you might be able to benefit from what I'm about to tell you. As a content creator, especially if it's video and you're videoing yourself, it is extremely hard at times to record yourself, watch it over again, and then edit it and post it for the world to see. What that does is it makes you hyper aware of yourself in a way that most people aren't, because most people might not be recording themselves like that. And when they do, they're like, oh my gosh, like, don't take pictures of me. Don't record me. I don't want to be caught on film, because it makes you aware of yourself. And so, doing a talking piece like this, I'm going to go look back on it and I will be able to pick myself apart no matter how cute my outfit is or how my hair looks or anything like that. You can always find something that you're just like, I wish I would have noticed that hair was out of place, or what's up with my makeup, or why is my eye doing that, or just little things like that. And it can make it really hard to get past that and then post it. So that's something that I noticed was happening, is it was making me hyper aware of myself. No matter how confident a person is, when you start seeing all the little things, it just makes it really hard. I also was someone who, I started doing the TikToks and the reels and noticed that they want you to use their filters. And I don't want to use them. I started to, and I'd look back and I'm like, that doesn't look anything like me. And I've always wanted to be authentic to myself. I think there is a benefit, and I do like to use, maybe like the beauty filter or something that smooths your skin just a little bit, like my camera does that I'm using right now. And I like that minimal just oomph that it gives to your photo or video. But I don't like the filters or the editing that people will do sometimes. I'm speaking on me specifically, where it will make you look totally different than how you actually look. And I understand why a lot of people do that, because, like I said, it is really hard to put yourself out there. And some people, it's like, hey, if you've got to filter it a lot just to put it out, go for it. That is not the route that I wanted to take. And so, with all the changes that my face and my body have been going through the last year, I wanted to make sure that I could do this at a time where I was feeling secure again with the way that I looked. And that's where we're going to go into my prep and beyond. So I did a 4-month prep, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want to try to keep this under 20 minutes. I did the prep, everything went great, down from 25% body fat to 12. The prep, the show, no complaints. The aftermath of prep has always been extremely hard for me. I've never been able to successfully reverse diet out of that, and I don't know what it is, but something about 3 months is the challenge for me. So every time I've done a prep, the 3 months after that, I struggle with my appetite, my hormones, and it doesn't matter how healthy I did the prep, those things are always going to come up, especially when you get so low in body fat. As soon as the show happened, I'm like, I don't want to be this lean. I don't want to undereat this much. I just want to get back to normal. And unfortunately, it's you don't want to go back to normal that quickly. There is a proper way to do it. I've just never been able to do it. And I think that might be why I might not ever compete again, is because post prep is just something I wouldn't wish on anybody, the way that that feels. Again, some people handle it better than others. I handle it very poorly, mentally, physically, emotionally. After around that 3-month mark, you start to feel like yourself again, or I started to feel like myself again. But also along that time, I decided I no longer wanted to have lash extensions, and I had had them for about 8 years. And that was a huge transition. If you've ever had them, if you have them, this could be very valuable for you. I really struggled once I got them off, and I know that all of us do. Even if you look beautiful with them off, there's something about having had that feature on your face for so long, and now you're bare, and you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't recognize myself. Things look distorted. Your mind plays tricks on you. And it's a really, really uncomfortable place to be. So I'm like, of course, I can't start my podcast like this. I don't want to put any content out while I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling about the way that I look. And so I went through that process. It took a couple of months for me to feel like, okay, yeah, I look like myself again. Along that process, I, of course, was, getting mascara because I no longer had those lashes. And the brand that I chose that was recommended to me was Thrive Cosmetics. And I didn't realize until a couple months or 3 months into that around that it was harming my eyes. It was hurting my eyes. And I didn't realize that at first because the lash extensions I was getting irritation from that, and they were making my eyes red. And that was one of the main things that got me to stop wearing them or getting them done. And so I got the Thrive Cosmetics. I was putting it on. My eyes were super red, itchy, and just they felt really uncomfortable. And so again, I thought it was a side effect from having had the lash extensions for 8 years. And then I'm like, no, it's got to be the mascara. So I stopped using it. My eyes went back to normal, totally fine. Everything's good. And I'm actually using a mascara that I used back as a teenager, and the first mascara that I really ever used. And so it's been a journey to like get back to myself and like the way that I look and want to present that. And again, it's not about just liking the way that I look. Like, I've been secure in my own world with that, and I can still post pictures and be fine. It's the insecurity about bringing myself onto film and doing my podcast on here and talking and not picking myself apart, because it is very, very hard. And if you're watching this, I'd love to know if you've gone through this as well, how challenging it is to just put yourself out there through content and not pick every single thing apart, no matter how secure you've been about yourself outside of content creation. So I wanted to share those few things about how hard it's been. Yes, there's been some technical things as well. I wanted to make sure that I liked my podcast setup. I didn't want to just, start something like, I don't like that. Like, I like the setup that I've got right now, and I'm very happy with it. And I didn't feel like that up until maybe a week or two ago. I'm like, yes, this is it. This is what I want. This is the layout that I want. This is how I want to do it. And so I finally got that all put together. I got a camera for this, and I've had technical issues with that, even as far as trying to record and the battery dying and just all kinds of things, which I'm really hoping that doesn't happen again, because I feel good about this and I want to film, and I'm just really hoping that nothing technical happens. The other things have just been making sure my computer and my phone and the camera have free storage for me to use, be able to transfer the audio and transfer the video, and just doing all those things. There's been so many hiccups with that, and it's been very, very hard. And I've lost a lot of motivation along the way in doing this because of just all the roadblocks that have gotten in the way. I do know that I've become a much better person. I've gone through this huge transition over the last year of competing and no longer competing. So you're a competitor while you're competing. Some people will go back into other shows, but for me, it's always been I do a show and then I don't have anything planned. And so I'm not really feeling like I'm a competitor anymore. And so you have that identity crisis that kind of happens. And so I went through that. I went through the identity crisis of no longer having my lash extensions, and just kind of the fluctuations that my body and my skin and everything have gone through the last year, the fluctuations. And thankfully I didn't gain a ton of unwanted body fat. I did obviously put on some healthy body fat that I'm happy with. The issue that I was experiencing is the extreme water retention, and that was very hard. My faces will from time to time get very puffy, and my eyes will get puffy, and my skin, I lose all the definition. And it's just it just takes away from everything like I've already been talking about. It makes it hard. Additionally, one other thing that I wanted to share real quick is I no longer drink alcohol, and that has been in the making for the last 4 or so years, where I've just been slowly transitioning from not drinking anymore. I was always like a social drinker. I would drink with friends, drink out and about, and never really alone. But I've been cutting down more and more and more to where I'm going out all of the time. I'm not drinking. I'm hanging out with friends. I'm not drinking. And yes, in the last like 4 months or so, I have had 2 alcoholic beverages. Halloween, I had a taste of someone's bourbon that they brought. And then in November, the beginning of November, I went to a wedding and I had a glass of wine, and that's it. And I don't feel guilty for that. I don't feel like in any kind of shame or anything like that. But before making this decision, I felt a lot of guilt and shame about drinking alcohol when it was more a part of my life and my socializing, because one, alcohol isn't good for you. We all know that, but also I really struggled with the aftermath. Even if I had a drink or two, the day that followed and the few days that followed, I felt very foggy. I felt like I lacked motivation. I didn't have the energy that I wanted or needed in the gym. My performance struggled. There were so many things that got in the way. And I'm like, why do I keep going through this cycle? Even if it's a drink or two, why am I, having this fun on Saturday, and then I'm struggling with everything Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, feeling good again Thursday, and then I drink again Friday or whatever, Saturday, Sunday. And it just, that roller coaster was no longer worth it. And so I've made the decision to no longer drink alcohol. I do not identify as someone who drinks anymore. And that's crazy to me in a way, because I've drank for half of my life. I drank starting at the age of 16. I am 33, almost 34 right now. So 33 seems like a number for a lot of people of no longer drinking and becoming sober at that age. So I think that's interesting too. something about your 30s, you just become wiser. You care more about your health and your energy, and just know that there's just certain things that you can't give that energy to anymore. So, again, this has been a long journey trying to get to this point of bringing my podcast back and doing it on video. I will be putting this on YouTube. I will be sharing it on my podcast platforms like I have before. But if you're here and you're watching this, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and watch this. If you're listening, again, thank you so much. I've always really appreciated whenever you guys, anyone listens to my podcast, because your time is valuable. And the fact that you're willing to give a little bit of that to me means the world. The fact that you're willing to listen to my message and kind of just spend some time with my energy, I just think that that's super cool. So thank you again for being here. And I'm going to try and wrap this up just real quick because I don't want to make these podcasts long. I just kind of wanted to circle back real fast before I end this and talk about all these roadblocks that I've gone through, because it's important to me to make sure that whenever I do a podcast episode, even if it's been all about me, I want to leave you with some actionable advice that can help you. I know that it's easier said than done to just take that next step, but that's really one of the best things that you can do. Even if it doesn't happen right away, just take that next right step. Take that next best step that you can take. Sometimes it happens overnight. Sometimes it takes a year to happen, right? And change takes time. Again, there's been certain things that I've been able to do, and I'm like, yes, I'm starting this right now. One and done, like I'm making it work. And then again, like I said, this took me a year to bring to reality. So along that journey, like I said, I've still been making the steps, or I've still been taking the steps necessary to make it happen. Little by little, I've added into my podcast space just to get the ball rolling, just to make sure that when I felt ready, I had everything that I needed. I got the camera, I got all of the equipment that I needed to be able to do this. Some of it I already had. I just wanted to make sure that it was set up. And this room's been waiting for me. This room is my office, it's my dance room, it's my podcast room. And this setup has been waiting for me as I put pieces together, like putting this blanket on here and getting this little table for my setup and just doing that next best thing. And again, like I said, it's taken a year. So it might take you longer than you think it's going to. Or if you just say, what's the next thing that I can do that will put me in that direction? This is what I'm going to do. And I highly, highly recommend that that's the choice that you make. If you have a goal, no matter what you're going through, if you're struggling mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it might be, just say, what's one thing that I can do today to put myself in a position to be able to accomplish that goal? And I think that that will help you a lot. And I think that the topics that I'm going to cover on this podcast season will be certain things that will help you along your journey as you pursue your potential. And I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that this worked out. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I will talk to you again soon. If you liked this episode, please go leave me a 5-star rating and a written review. Let me know your thoughts, and please share with your friends. Bye.